And welcome to Straight Talk Live. I am one of the co-hosts, Rick Snyder. I'm the author of Decisive Intuition and the CEO of Invisible Edge, and proud co-host of this not-for-profit podcast that is being brought to you live every Thursday at this exact time, 9 a.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. UK, 9:30 p.m. in Delhi. And we're going to have an exciting show today with one of my favorite trailblazers that I've discovered recently that I'm very excited to bring to you. But first, I want to introduce my fellow co-host, Af Malhotra. Af, take it away.
Thank you, Rick. Welcome, everyone, for another fantastic show. We always tend to sort of outpace ourselves when it comes to our guests. Today is one such day, and we have a magnificent, powerful leader on the show today. We'll talk about a lot of things today, from leadership to spirituality, perhaps. It's going to be a fun show. I'm, of course, the co-creator of this wonderful show. I'm also the co-founder of Growth Enabler, a fast-growing tech company, and do a lot of philanthropic work to make humanity have a little bit of hope, from eradicating hunger to helping young startups achieve their dreams. So, Rick, I'm going to throw the cricket ball over to you. This time, not a baseball, cricket ball. So catch it and let's crack on with the show.
Okay. So today we're going to be introducing Harpreet A De Singh to our show. And Harpreet, first of all, just welcome to Straight Talk Live. Excited to have you here.
Hello. Hello, Rick. Thank you very much.
And just to give a little background for our audience, there's so much to say about you. You were the first female pilot ever for Air India at age 21. You were also the first female flight instructor, I believe, for Air India. And you are now the CEO of Alliance Air. So even that alone, it just really blows my mind. And I'm sure there's a million other things we haven't talked about yet, of just all the ways that you have this incredible audacity and courage to step into new territories. And whatever the situation is, you're able to bring forward your conviction, your belief in yourself, your ability to trust what you see and what you know, and the confidence in yourself to lead and to try new things and to have people take a chance and to change the paradigm of the moment. So I'm so excited to have you on today for all of our listeners who may be in a similar situation where they want to get that extra bit of courage to try something new and to really go for it. So really excited to have you on today.
Thank you, Rick. It's a pleasure.
Now, let's just start there. How do you do it? Like, really, how do you do it where, the script hasn't been written yet, especially being the first female leader in so many different domains? What can you tell our audience about how do you maneuver through those moments and people who might be challenging or not believing or maybe actively working against you at times? I'm sure you've experienced that.
So life has its challenges, of course. But for me, I have never really worried about getting here and getting there and, looking too many steps ahead and spoiling my happiness in the present moment. Just give your 100%. Keep doing your best work, use your inner strength, connect to the people, be happy in what you're doing, and be like a little child who's enthusiastic to learn, who's always willing to listen, to absorb, to connect. And I think over a period of time, if you're passionate about what you do, you really enjoy what you do, you will get somewhere. And just since you introduced me, although I got selected as the first pilot in Air India, there was a situation of my medical fitness. I did not continue as a pilot. So it was a very different environment that I had to again, start all over again. And I actually, I got into the training department, and then I was training pilots as a ground trainer and doing CRM and technical and other subjects. But the issue here is you will get these challenges. You will get these surprises. You will be tested time to time to time. But what makes you prevail is your confidence, your faith, and knowing that somewhere down the line, God gives tests to those whom he knows can overcome. Mm-hmm. And you have to go with that faith. You have to have that spirit to overcome. And if you just do it honestly, truthfully, you just get there automatically. That's what I feel. I haven't planned to be a CEO. I haven't planned to be. I just wanted to do whatever I do well. And I must be happy. I must be peaceful. My conscience should be clear. I should sleep peacefully in the night. Don't disturb anybody's happiness. Just do the right thing. And that's what clicks. That's my journey in a short summary.
Harpreet, that's amazing. Talk us through. You have such a fantastic story, and we often have leaders in different sort of shapes and sizes on our show, and you often, unfortunately, I have to say this, but we struggle sometimes to find women leaders, not because there aren't many, but they're less than we would like, and we're still on that journey, as you know, and it's a long journey that we're on. Talk us through just a little bit about your background, because, for people who don't know you, they're just looking at this person with a job title in the aviation industry, and we'll come to that later. But what is it? Who are you really? How have you managed to get here? I don't mean the process. I mean, you're in front of us. You've got a great aura. You're smiling. You said something to us, which I'm not going to give away. You can share it yourself, about the sort of practices at 3:45, 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning that you do every single day, which was amazing to hear. How do you become you? And this is a very individual, subjective view, but it's interesting and we really want to know. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
So as far as myself goes, firstly, I owe a lot to my parents, especially to the way I was brought up, which taught me to respect people around me, no matter which religion, which faith, which economic background, to treat people with due respect, because finally we are all pure souls. You said, who are you? Tell me about yourself. Who am I? This body is going to go away one day. I'm actually a pure soul that's going to go from life to life to life. And if I can relate to that identity for myself, my entire reaction to the situations around me, to the people that I speak to, even if at times I may not always be the perfect being because I'm a human being, I may do some things wrong. But when I reflect, I'm able to realize that this is where I was not okay, and I need to do something about it. And that kind of reflection comes with meditation, with quiet times, with the ability to be honest and true to your own self. You have to have that ability and strength to accept that this is where you are not okay. You should have done something in a more human manner, or you should have been more responsible or more accountable, etc., etc. But what happens is, when you talk about me, the person, you also spoke about the woman angle. I was blessed to be in a family where my father, being a man, like, he would actually say, every woman should be able to stand on their own feet. He was, I would say, the most liberated man in that thought process. Me and my sister, we would go cycling together. Even if we fell down, he would say, get up, walk up on your own, stand up on your own feet, have faith. The strength with which we were brought up, the inner strength, had a lot to do with who I am today. Plus, I would say I give a lot of credit to my National Cadet Corps, where I did my NCC training, where we were taught a lot of discipline, a lot of, combined teamwork activities, which makes you grounded. You don't have any egos. You learn how to do things which you would have normally never done. I went into a lot of camps. I remember I stayed for 3 months with a billeting family. We used to call it billeting family, means it's not my real family, in Kerala. I didn't know a word of Malayalam, but I worked like a laborer for 3 months. We built houses. I sat like a mason, morning to night in the hot sun, carrying big stones on your head, working like a laborer. That kind of grounding which you get when you're a teenager, 16 years, 17 years, those memories don't go away. And I owe a lot of that to the kind of training that I went through as well. Then I was into dance, and dance, the creative side, it tells you perfection. It tells you about little nuances which you have to be careful about: your expression, your connection, your grace, how you communicate. So I think a lot of creative and discipline combined with NCC, dancing, my family background, my own courage, my own spirituality, which I grew up in. I think that's what I am today. But I still say, who am I? I'm a pure soul. That's it. And if you remove these layers of, I'm a CEO, I'm a director, I'm a woman, I'm a wife, I'm a this, and you just come down to the real you, everything will be fine. Because then you see everybody else the same way. You know, that's what spirituality has taught me. And as a CEO, I really don't think that I'm a CEO. I'm only a trustee. I should be ready to leave that chair in 1 second when I'm told, okay, now you move to some other area without being attached. That means you stay involved, you work passionately, but you do not get attached to that seat. If you get attached, that's when in Indian language, we call it Maya, illusion. That's when all the, problems begin, because you want everything. You want all those worldly things. Give.
That's right.
So it doesn't work that way. So when you give it with your full 100%, like I would say, besides IQ and EQ, you need PSQ, pure soul quotient. IQ, yes, of course, you do require it in your normal work. You need that emotional quotient. You need that intuition to understand your colleagues, your juniors, your subordinates. I should be able to see that person when he walks into my office. From his face, I know today is not a good day for him. But at times you have to be firm, you have to be harsh. But you can be a fair and harsh boss, harsh only on the surface, because a diamond needs polishing, right? Sometimes you're harsh only on the surface, but you go out of the way to help your subordinates to scale up, to become better. If you can make 50 more women, 50 more, like I would tell myself, if I as a woman have reached a certain position, it's my duty to make sure that 50 more do the same. And that's why when I became the president of Indian Women Pilots Association and the International Women Professionals in Aviation, I kept saying the same thing. It is not just enough to keep saying, I did this, I did that. What are you going to do to help the other women come out?
Right.
That is the real woman power, that you actually help the people who do not have the strength. You give them that strength. You have to give them that positivity, that positive vibrations have to flow onto them. That's how you empower them. And then it feels so good to see more and more coming up. Like as CEO, because this is a smaller airline, when we did our first flight to Bareilly, which is in March, it was 8th March, Women's Day. So we did, for the regional carrier, it was the first time we did an all-woman flight, like, women pilots, women dispatcher, women engineer, women ATC controller, women CEO, and even the ministry people who were around, they were women who came on board. And I did the same thing in my earlier, actually, I'm from Air India. This is a subsidiary. In Air India, we have done numerous such flights. And I was the woman behind, I would say, more than 90% of those flights in the planning, organizing, making sure that others also get the credit, get recognized. Because you, just by showcasing, sometimes you're motivating thousands of other women.
Correct.
Because when people are watching, they say, oh, if she can do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
You have to be a role model also. That is your duty. You have to bring up people. So that's the way, that's me, the person. I can be tough on the surface, but from inside, I'm like a very, very softy person, actually. So I'll go out of the way to help people, but I'm tough on the surface.
No, I love your perspective here. And I don't hear this enough from CEOs and leaders in general. And I want to double click on this for a moment, because what you said is really important around the ego. And in just how you bring up soul and spirituality as a CEO, you don't hear that very often in the world, in the business space. And there's a way you're just so comfortable and at peace with that. It's not, it doesn't feel weird at all. It's just natural for who you are. And my question to you is, what is more common that we all know about is the ego, that people do care about titles. They care about position. They care about politics and me, and how can I get ahead? What's going to look good for my career, right? And we all know that's what usually sabotages most businesses and most leadership teams, are these dynamics that happen in almost every leadership team. So how have you dealt with that? Because obviously you've had to have faced politics, people jostling to get ahead. all these types of dynamics. How do you deal with those situations, whether you're personally involved or you see it going on in your own team?
So first thing is that you have to be conscious of the fact that some amount of ego is natural in all of us. But it is how much are you allowing it to come to the surface? Because some amount of ego helps you to push yourself to do better. Okay. But what happens is that when the ego gets too much, and when the ego goes beyond what is required, then you stop accepting feedback. You stop accepting criticism. You stop recognizing that there could be better alternative ways of doing something which we could have discussed together as a team. And that is why, even as a CEO, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on this channel, you can ask my subordinates, I'm always asking them, do you have a better idea? What do we do as a team? Is there something that we have missed out on? And I've even gone to the extent that I tell them that don't just say yes because I'm saying so. I may have missed something. And this is what is meant by being egoless when you're in decision making. Because if you want the right decision, the correct decision, you have to have that communication flow with your subordinates and your colleagues. Because then you would know for sure that you've not missed something. You've not, you're not in that self-assumed theory that only you know, and that's the only way it's to be done. At times, you may have to push a bit. Like we say, be like the water. Now, I don't know, this just is coming out of my mouth for some reason. Water is always flowing downwards, right? It takes the shape of any container. So you adapt, you be flexible. You know when to pull out and when to pull in. But the water also generates steam, right? So if somebody is just trying to create trouble, you can see it immediately. Your intuition will tell you. He's not here because he's giving a constructive suggestion. He's here to jeopardize the operation, or he's just trying to create roadblocks. You have to know when to raise the steam with your tone, with your demeanor, without sounding rude. And even if you are sounding a little rude at that point, after 10 minutes, you calm down and you still talk to that person in a friendly way. And as far as when you observe it with other people, I've followed this many times. One person comes and tells you A story. The second person comes and tells you a B story. And you know the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? So best is, without breaking their confidence, call A, B, and the C, and the D, and we all sit together. Let's have a cup of coffee. Okay, I was just wondering, this thing has been bothering me for a while. How do we deal with this situation? So now A will say something, then I'll say, but I also thought we could do it this way. Then the B will start opening up because now the environment is different. And then the C and D will also start talking. So, but without sounding that he complained about this person and that, all those issues have come out into the open. And when they're in the open, they get discussed. And we also have a joke sometimes, if it's getting too hot, we're not leaving this room till we all agree with a smile, what are we going to do about this situation?
Yeah.
So we have a nice cup of coffee, we keep talking about it, and we come to a solution. So these are the kind of techniques I adopt because I think emotionally human beings are human beings. They're not different. If you treat everybody as a pure soul, all that they're looking for is some kind of respect, some kind of encouragement. They want to be treated as someone important. It's their ego also, right? You have to sometimes humor them a bit because they need to open up and feel comfortable with you. So I think that's important when you're trying to get a group and team together. Together, everyone achieves more. No one person can, deliver. But as a leader, it's very important that I take full accountability. So even if my teammate causes something to go wrong, as long as it was not a deliberate violation, it was just a genuine error, I take full responsibility. And they must have that confidence that my leader is behind me. Otherwise, you're not a leader. You have to walk the talk, right? You have to support them. You have to give them energy. You have to be like the sun that is always giving light. No matter the clouds come or whatever, they should know the sun is going to stay there even if something else goes wrong. The sun is always there with me. I mean, that kind of support you need to get from your team. then
Yeah.
you can deliver anything.
Harpreet,
That
Harpreet, tell us a little bit more about on the same track. The through your career, you would have worked with all sorts of people from different backgrounds. So you've talked a lot about women empowerment, and how you've played a significant role there. Tell us specifically about. I'm touching on this question because it's probably a question that's not asked, so we may as well ask it because we're straight talk. Talk us through how you've dealt with difficult men. And what I mean by difficult men is, let's accept that I think women have a sixth sense and a superpower that some of us men don't have, which is the ability to sense and respond. Call it EQ, if you will.
yes.
But many men do have, they're territorial, maybe even a little bit primitive to some extent. The hunters, to some extent. The need for significance and the need for prominence is very hard for most men to detach from. You have to be very evolved, actually, to be able to do that and go through numerous life experiences. And so talk us through, without naming names, any experiences or episodes where your calm demeanor was challenged, as in, we only human, right? You're only human. So you may have exploded or thought, what the, talk us through a few episodes where you have had a conflict with, I'm deliberately saying a man, not another woman, because we wanted to try and understand that side of you as well. How did you deal with it?
So I can give you one example that initially when I was hired as a instructor for pilots to take classes, ground subjects, etc. So I was the only woman again. So I had this only woman issue in a lot of it's a long list.
Of course.
So everywhere I landed up in an environment where I was the only woman. So, we are talking of many days, many years ago, in fact. So at that point of time, the challenge was that I didn't even have just a female-male issue. I had an age issue also, because I was supposed to take classes for some people, the senior pilots, who are like 20 years older than me, And now you're in this strange environment. You're a lady, number one, and you have all these men in the classroom, and they're all 20 years old or 15 years old, very, very experienced, very smart, very intelligent. And now you are there as one newcomer, and you are trying to, break the ice. It is challenging. And there were certain individuals who initially were trying to, oh, who is this who's come to teach? Their attitude was like, what? Just because you're a woman, kind of, without saying so, but you're in this post and this is a strange environment. But what I realized was, one was that group, and the second was the other men, the other colleague instructors. They would at times even go to the extent of like not giving me access to information so that I don't do a good job, would block my, abilities in different subtle ways by saying, oh, the system is not working anymore, knowing that I've got a training to do the next day and I have to be well prepared and, stuff like that. And they would just say, it's not working, it's under maintenance. I just looked at all that, and initially I felt a little rattled, but then I just thought about it. And again, my father's words, my visualization that God is always with me. I said, look, maybe this is some apprehension they have, but I have to just deal with it. And I said, as long as I can prove that I'm not against any of them, and I'm actually working with I really want to do a good job. That's all that I care about, right? I have to break that ice. And I started talking to them slowly, steadily, casually, And I did the first couple of training sessions, word spread, oh, she's a good instructor, she knows her stuff. Firstly, you have to work hard. You have to prove yourself also. That goes undoubtedly. But the second thing is, with your colleagues and others, you would continue to have some kind of altercations, but I feel I would try to bring it out more into the open, like with them individually. Like, is there an issue? Is there something that I've not done right? Or is there something we can talk about? And I would try my best to actually help them. Like in the evening before sleeping, I would like send them healing energy. And I would say like, I have nothing against you. Why are you against me? I would visualize that there's a bubble and there's me and there's this other person in that bubble. And I'm sending the bubble into heavens. Like, take care of this, because there's nothing wrong that I'm doing towards the person. And I've always felt that over a period of time, it may not have happened immediately, but somewhere it just gets sorted out. It just like, and I would always ask myself, did I do any wrong action against them? No. Then I would feel happy. And if it is still not happening all okay, then you have to just leave it. Because finally, what happens is that you have to continue being happy in whatever you're doing. Eventually, it will resolve. Some things take longer. You have to be patient. Some people take longer because of their own, what we call karmic, energies, their own, what we call in English, how do you say it? We call it sanskars. Sanskars, like you carry
traditions.
Yeah, because you remember lifetimes of actions. You can't get rid of it. You can't get rid of it in one life, right? So
it's almost like
all that.
It's like your soul.
Time.
Your soul conditioning, like all the conditioning from past lives.
Exactly. So what happens is then you have to be the humane person around and say, okay, he can't help it. I mean, he's like that. I will have to keep hoping and healing and hoping that he'll change. And even if he doesn't change, I'm sure somewhere God will help him to understand. But so far, I can tell you that at work, these were all my initial hassles. But I never faced, in general, any trouble. Firstly, one golden rule, when I'm at work, I don't even think I'm a woman, firstly. I think I'm a man. Like, I think I'm just one of them, right? Second thing is, I've never demanded anything extra because I'm a woman. That's what puts men off. That's what I've realized. You have come into that job. You can't ask for special privileges and special this and special that, right? I am always the first one to reach office, the last one to leave. I'm always there to do whatever work it takes. So people, finally, people are good from inside. How much ever they may pretend from outside, deep down, they're all good people. That's what I believe in. Somewhere that energy does go. And even your worst enemies, in their heart of heart, they respect you because they know you are doing the right thing. They may be jealous. They may be having politics and all those things. But in their heart of heart, they do know who's doing what. They do respect you. So I think I've not had much of an issue. And I've forgiven, forgotten. I don't want to keep any grudges. I want to be happy and I want them also to be happy. So my attitude on these things is very clear.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm just loving your where you come from and your perspective, and I just hope more leaders out there are listening. And we need more of your perspective and voice out to be able to impact so many people that I know in our different circles. Appreciate where you come from. I want to take the conversation slightly in a different direction, and it's around COVID. And obviously the airlines was one of the most disrupted industries of all. And there's so many we could talk about, but let's talk about yours. And so my question is, first of all, how did that go down? Because you have such a positive mindset, but there's always real challenges, and there's got to be times when you have doubt and challenge as well. And how do you lead yourself, but also your team and others in chaos and chaotic situations where you don't know what's going to happen a month from now? You see the financials dropping. You worry about payroll, all those kinds of human things. How do you tell us a little bit about how that went down for you?
Okay, so I will give you this answer in two parts, because my initial experience with COVID was when I was Chief of Flight Safety, Executive Director, Air India, because I became CEO Alliance Air in November. So COVID started way before in 2020. So in fact, 2019 end. I was also the Emergency Response Director. So we had already started flagging a lot of our emergency response actions that we were watching the world news, and we knew that something was happening. So I think in my earlier role as Chief of Flight Safety, the COVID was a huge challenge because we actually had to do the entire safety risk assessments. We had to do the entire planning of what should be the standard operating procedures, whether it is for the pilots, for the ground, for the engineering, for the cabin crew, for the passengers, so that we can operate in a safe manner. We had special evacuation flights by the government of India called Vande Bharat flights. And these were going to more than 100 destinations where we had never ever flown before. So normally as a scheduled operator, we would be doing a planned movement from a point A to point B. Here, every second day, there's a new station which we have never gone before. And we had to make sure that the runway, the performance, the other limitations, operationally, the aircraft is safe to land. But along with that, all the other procedures of the COVID testing, the mask, the separations, the the kind of procedures that we had to introduce for engineering, for deep cleaning, cleaning of the cockpit, sanitization. There were so many SOPs. Flight safety department was one of the busiest departments during COVID.
Makes sense.
Now talking, how did you lead the situation? People were scared to come out and go to work.
Right.
So I said, if people are not going to come out and I have to do this task, if I'm heading this department, I have to go there first. I've always believed in one thing. You cannot ask somebody to do anything which you can't do yourself, because that is unfair. So what I did was, taking all the precautions, I started going to work, getting the systems into place to keep all the paperwork ready so that we could operate. Slowly and steadily, my number twos started following, then my number threes, and then, the team started doing a lot of work. So that was one of the very challenging time during COVID. But I also felt that COVID taught us a lot of things. COVID taught us how not to take life for granted, how to not take situations for granted, how to always be prepared, because Murphy's Law is always there. If something can go wrong, it will. So it has helped us to become more proactive. It has helped us to give more hybrid mode of functioning. It has changed the way of working. Now, as far as the CEO position in Alliance Air, because the COVID continues, here the challenge is quite different. So the safety risk assessments, those parts are similar. But here the challenge is we're trying to help people in the remote cities, in the interiors of India, because we are operating to 2-tier, 3-tier cities. We have to position vaccinations to them. We have to send supplies. And sometimes the crew show hesitation and, can I go here? Or I don't feel comfortable. You're motivating them like, come on, this is the time you can show that you did it. And you're going to always think back in your later years in your life that when the challenge came, I was there to face it. You need to pep up your teams, and you need to, again, talk the talk. You should be out there in front. You should be leading. And what we realized is the cabin crew, the pilots, they just need some kind of assurance, the ground handlers, the engineering. And you're going into all these remote places where you don't have much of support. Unlike the big airline operation where the airports are, well prepared and everything is arranged at the airport once you land. Here you are landing into an area where they were worried about getting infected, because it's the smaller stations. So you have a different kind of a unique challenge. But I think the COVID scenario, we as a team have really, I feel that Alliance Air team has done a brilliant job. I say Alliance Air is Alliance of the Hearts. I would tell them that. Dilon se jodne wali Alliance Air. In Hindi, it means an airline that connects everyone with their hearts. Because when I read this word alliance, I said, alliance means what? Alliance of the hearts. So I said, this is your opportunity to connect to the people, to help them, care for them. And I think it's worked. And I kept reminding them the same thing, your pure soul quotient. You also have to have corporate social responsibility. You're not only a business enterprise. You are there to do good for your nation, good for the human beings. You're there to support where in times of need. And this is when you can do it as an airline. But coming to the third part of your question, that economically, yes, airlines are making huge losses. It's a huge challenge. There's no doubt. But it's like a game of snake and ladder. One day you're up, one day you're down. So I'm sure we'll come up. You have to have that positive thought, and you have to generate positive vibrations that things will change. Otherwise, you will be stuck up, and your own enthusiasm has to go into everybody around you. Only then you can make things happen.
Yeah.
Look at the opportunities. We went into cargo business. We started doing cargo flights, which we never did before.
Right.
So we're looking at connecting people into health. The old traditional Indian naturopathy, yoga, spiritualism. People want to go and take a break. They've got fed up of being stuck in the home. Look at the business opportunity. You can tie up with the hotel industries. You can take people to those resorts, let them calm down. I'm thinking of a lot of things of how to come out of this COVID and bring some change in the society itself. Why not? I mean, everything happens for a good reason. Take out the best out of it. So
Yeah.
I know it's depressing, but we can come out of it.
Yeah, Harpreet, you talk. I mean, I think you're, without question, an inspirational leader, because I don't mean I'm not using words for the sake of using words. It's because the way you're framing things, you're in a position of power, but you're also in a position of accountability. It's not a rosy pathway like, you're in some sort of a spiritual job, but it feels like you're integrating different aspects of you, your personal, your work, the creative side of you, your family side, and you're doing the best you can to mesh them together to then be more as complete as possible as a person. And you happen to be a leader as well, because you've got people that you inspire and motivate. What a wonderful sort of place you're in your life, regardless of economic factors and so on and so forth. But the other thing you said, which is quite fascinating, a good takeaway for all of us, is that during times of difficulty or chaos, necessity, you've just described it, you're forced to rethink your business model. You wouldn't have touched cargo. I'm assuming maybe the industry wouldn't have even touched cargo, or you may not even thought about, well, actually, we're going to take a whole group of people and tie up with a resort, and we'll take them there this way. Previously you would have been, well, no, why would we? Don't break that. Anything that doesn't need fixing. So I think what you're saying is the core ethics and principle of leadership. Leadership, not just for a company, but also if you look at Mahatma Gandhi, or you look at Martin Luther King, or all sorts of leaders. You talked about your father. We've all got examples of people who've led our lives. I think you're helping us to come back to what we've forgotten exists in human beings. I mean, we always talk about, one of my family members. I keep repeating this example, and Rick knows. Family member of mine asked me, what's the difference between AI, because there's an area that I operate in, AI and human beings. And I didn't want to give him a boring answer, so I said love. So he said, oh, that sounds a bit soppy, but that's the truth. And consciousness and love, that's what we have when the machines will take over a little bit. So very powerful. Can I move the conversation to one area, which is the next generation? And so, there's a demographic advantage we have when you have a resilience, trained in the right way, you have discipline, liberal family backgrounds, and so on. The situation isn't always the same for the younger generation, as we know. They're dealing with a different phenomena. They have a different set of cards that they're sort of playing with. And sometimes they get criticized, and I want to put both cases forward and I want your view on it. The first criticism is the snowflake generation, low resilience, want to succeed at everything, instant gratification, so on and so forth. And that might be true to some extent. The other is they are way more empowered in terms of access to information, way more knowledgeable than we are. I always joke my daughter is running on the blockchain. She's 2.5, and I'm still on Windows, right? And so I've realized that, and I have to find a way to engage with her. Talk us through what you believe is the future of the next generation, the good things and some of the things that they have to contend with, that some of what you're sharing today can be imparted and passed on.
So the good things is that today the younger generation is far more informed. They have far more information available to them. That's the good part, because on a click of a button, you Google this and you Google that, and everything is available to you. But the sad part is, it is just superficial information. It's not true knowledge. It's not understanding the essence of what you're reading, At times I find the younger generation wants to do 30 things, and at times they're so much into the worldly body consciousness, what we call, like, I must look good, and my friends must be saying nice things about me. They're more interested in how many likes they get and putting their pictures and getting, this is all an image. It's a false image, and it's becoming more and more so. And a lot of the depression cases that happen today, or the expectations in relationships or in friendships or in family life, at work life, are getting destroyed because of all this so-called superficial, connections that they have, but they're not deep,
Right.
And there is too much of desire for being appreciated superficially. Oh, he looks so good, and she's so beautiful, and what I wear and which brand I wear. So people are lost in all this. That is the sad part. So what I recommend to the younger generation, because they are so empowered with actually easy access to a lot of things, they don't have to struggle to survive like even the generation before me. We are actually, I would say, the generation of the 60s. I was born in 66, December 25, 66, Christmas Day. So like the generation before me struggled more than the generation that I belong to.
Right.
But the generation after me is got everything readily available, right? They don't have to struggle at all. And the generation that we are in is a nice, it is caught between the two, where you have a very traditional generation before you and a very, very new generation in front of you, and you're half this and half that. So it's even a struggle for our generation. But what I would suggest is simple techniques of quiet time. If you're not believing in God or anything, you can at least believe in the universal energy. You can believe in you just go with the evidence of how you feel. If I'm going for the people who are not really believers in the too much spiritual side, there are a lot of believers, but for those who are not, if you just sit quietly in the morning, half an hour, just observe your breath, connect to the environment around you, all the difficult questions which you have in your life, put them in front of you. You yourself will give the answer. Try it out. You will get the answer. You just need to calm yourself, because finally, we are all part of one big consciousness. Even the energies within our body, the air that we breathe in, breathe out, it is also connected to the same universe. So once you start connecting it that way, you will get all the answers. And when you get the answers, the superficiality drops. The peace comes out. The love comes out. You spoke about love, truth, honesty, true knowledge, compassion, kindness. These are the things that come out. And it will automatically result in peace and love for yourself. And if your inner cup is full, you stop expecting things from others. I've gone through phases where I had a lot of expectations from people. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm teaching myself, I continue to teach myself that stop expecting, because maybe my spiritual level is at a different point, and others are at different levels, up and down, some above, some below, and you need to respect that. Give them their time to grow, because maybe you're at a different point in your journey, whether it's at work or at home. So that would be my general advice.
Beautiful. That's nicely put. I mean, I think you have a lot of questions, but I just want to add one bit. I think you raised a really important point. I think what I'm going through it in my life, I'm sure Rick is too, and so is everyone else here. In any position in life, the problem with expectations is that often, depending on your standards, they may not be met. And when they're not met, you're frustrated. Frustrated creates a different demeanor, right? You're not in the heavens. You're not still. You've got these thoughts in your mind. You're overanalyzing. You're angry at someone who wasn't able to live up to the standards that you expect them to. And that is the fundamental problem with expectations, family and or work. And it's brilliant that you're sharing something that with the umbrella of what we refer to as conscious capitalism. That's one of the things that we're trying to promote, which is inclusive and or conscious capitalism. The idea that some of these principles of humanity, have been lost and eroded over a period of time, need to be brought back. Not by the next generation, by us, because what you're talking about there, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but are you saying there's a little bit of amplification of ego when you say, the young generation wants to look good on Instagram or TikTok, or it's about the body? Would you call that the rise of the ego, or is it something different?
It is both. It is the rise of the ego because, you feel good. And in the traditional spiritual text, they will say that like the soul that started in a very pure form over the generations has got eroded. And it needs to come back. It just needs that strength back. How to get that back is what spirituality teaches you. And it doesn't matter which faith, which religion you belong to. They all say the same thing.
Right.
The path may be different, but the destination is the same. The goal is the same. So stop those rigid boundaries of I am a this and I am a that. That is also a boundary. The moment you get out of that, that is why in my meditation, I call that group universal prayers. Like we take prayers of different religions because this is the time where the planet needs connection. We need to get people together. We need to heal together, to heal ourselves and heal the world. And whether you're a business person, whether you're a woman, man, this, that, it doesn't matter because finally we are all pure souls. We have to connect to the supreme power and we have to vibrate with that beautiful energy, and life is divine after that. I mean, and you stop worrying about small things like, you should be like that eagle that's watching from above and in a detached mode and enjoy the heaven, enjoy the floating in the skies. It's so beautiful. Like while I'm talking to you, I'm already there. I get the same feeling.
We're there with you. We're floating with you. We're looking down.
Yes, as
you take off. As you take off, we're looking down. Great. We have a bunch of questions that are coming in. Rick, do you want to take one?
Sure. And just a reminder for our live audience, please send in your questions now so we can get them answered, whether you're tuning in on Facebook or YouTube or on our live Zoom chat as we speak. So here's a question from Facebook. So you say, Harpreet, that you are the first to enter and the last to leave the building, especially as a CEO, role modeling that. The question is, does this create pressure on staff, especially those with family commitments, to do the same at the expense of their well-being?
So, very good question. And yes, it does not create any pressure because I just want to do that so that they are not under pressure that, she doesn't herself do it, but she expects us to do it. It is basically to break that bridge. But my staff leaves well before me. But I'm there. I tell them, if you have any problem, you have any personal issues, family issues, leave a note for me. Let's talk about it. So some people stay back because they want to discuss something at a personal level, right? But there is no pressure on anyone. I say, as long as the job gets done, my pressure is on delivery, on execution. How you do it, how you fit it into your system, that's up to you. Especially in today's time with the hybrid mode of work. Some are working from home, some are working full-time, some are working part-time. I'm more interested in the result being completed.
Right.
I can be a hard taskmaster also.
Yes, got it.
I'm both actually.
Yes.
I'm both. Because I think it's also important to realize that you are a professional. You have to execute your task.
Right.
You can finish it early, no problem. But just because I'm sitting late, I don't expect the office to sit. And it's not that I'm every day sitting late, but what I do is whatever is leftover issues, I don't like to leave it for tomorrow.
Right.
I always believe, like they say, there's a saying, do not think of repenting on the 11th hour. You may die at 10:30. Yeah. Every second, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
My today must be brilliant, right? I don't want to postpone. I want to do it. There's the 4 Ds principle. Do it, what only you can do. Delegate, whatever you can delegate. Whatever you can't do, whatever you can't delegate, delay it. And if you can't do any of the 3, dump it.
Yeah.
Just carry on, your time management. Yeah.
That's right. That's good.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So Ashwani who's listening in asks you, How do you actually handle all the fame and accolades that come with your amazing accomplishments and still stay firmly grounded?
I never knew I'm famous. I don't think I am.
Ashwani
That's
thinks you're
news.
very
That's
famous.
news to me. No, these days everybody's famous. If you see the kind of Instagrams floating around and the social media, I think everyone is famous. So
Right.
I really don't know whether I'm famous or not
And, and
because
And if anything, if I can interpret her
because
question, even though I'm not her, I'm getting a sense that you're like being the CEO, being the head of the, the face of the Alliance Air. How do you stay grounded on your day-to-day life, etc.?
because I look, yes, very good question. I look
Mhm.
at life, being a CEO is not such a great accomplishment.
Mhm.
Being the perfect human being in soul connection is the perfect accomplishment. So if the security guard who opens the gate for me in the morning, he may be much higher than me in the life exam. So for me, what keeps me grounded is realizing that how am I doing in my life exam? How have I responded to situations? How have I responded to people? How have I overcome when I was not treated fairly? Or when situations around me were unfair, how did I deal with it? So when you start thinking that way, you automatically become grounded, because you're always looking at life in a very different perspective, not a CEO. And these are just positions. You're just a trustee, nothing more.
Powerful.
Tomorrow, I should not feel anything if I'm in some other position. It's okay.
Yeah, it's like
That's life.
how do I fully own and embody the role and not attach to it at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Be like the eagle, detached.
Hmm.
So you and detached does not mean not being involved. There's a
Right,
difference.
right.
Right.
You can be detached, but you can be still passionate and involved with what you're doing, because that is also, because that gives you happiness. You're giving your 100%. And when you're doing your job, think you're giving it to the Almighty, not to that company, to that individual. Then you do the right thing. Ask yourself, would you be happy? Would God be happy if I did this? No. So I'm not going to do it. Sometimes you get into those gray zones. So the gray becomes black and white very easily when you start questioning your inner conscience. Yeah. And you'll get the answer. You said you're in intuition, right, Rick? You'll get the answer.
Yes. How do you deal with like sometimes board members or people who are very financially minded only, and they don't care about soul talk, they don't care about the eagles flying in the skies, they just want Alliance Air continuing to fly profitably, and that's all they care about. How do you deal in those conversations?
So with them, I of course first talk about only profitability. First, I get all the stuff done which is meant to be done, because that is the job. And being professional about your job is equally important. You can't be doing soul talk all the time, but you are always a soul from inside, whatever talk you might be doing. That's the difference. So after you finish the profitability talk, and if there is some side thing that you would like to happen, which is good for human mankind, you bring it in slowly, and then they're okay with it. You don't start the other way around. This is what is a trick to manage your tricky board members. The other thing is, like, I'll give you an actual example which happened in my airline. We delayed a flight by 30 minutes just by touching the consciousness of the passengers. We were told that there were organs that had to be moved from live organs that had to be moved from one city to another, and it would have saved 4 lives. But for that, we had to delay the flight by 30 minutes. Now, the thought came to me, I had to take a quick decision. I can't be unfair to the passengers who have paid a ticket and want to travel to place B to get there on time. So I quickly took a decision, spoke to the captain. I said, make an announcement to all the passengers. Here's an opportunity to save 4 lives. With your permission, can we delay the flight? You won't believe it. Every passenger said, it's okay. 30 minutes, it's worth it. So it's best to get a buy-in. And after delaying the flight for 30 minutes, we could take those organs with us, rush it to the hospitals, and we actually saved 4 lives. We feel so happy about it. I'm sure those passengers are going to remember it for the rest of their lives, more than anything else. When I started Angels of Air India, my boss told me, what is this Angels of Air India? I said, I want to touch the heart of the employee because I wanted to create a voluntary team to support in emergency response for any kind of disaster. And I said, if I use the word angels, something is going to trigger in their heart. And without paying them any extra money, they will volunteer. He said, I don't think so. I said, let me try. He saw my passion. He said, okay, go ahead and try it. And I can proudly say we had more than 1,000 volunteers. And they are the ones who handled our 2 accidents which we had in the airline a few years ago. So what I'm trying to say is that human beings are actually good, pure souls. They've only forgotten their own identity. They just need the remembrance that this is what they are. And when you meditate, you start connecting to your own purity. And you realize that you are also very pure, So I think that is what makes the difference. I think I gave you 2 good examples that came along with the question.
You did. And Af, I think we need to get back on the meditation cushion.
Yeah, you tell
you
me
and I, buddy.
Yeah, you've triggered a lot of you've triggered a lot of other thoughts that we'll probably would love to have you back at it on a different occasion. But to speak specifically about noise and digital and its relationship with stillness and meditation, because the core to what you're discussing here, and it's a big topic, it's a big issue. Many thought leaders and opinion leaders on this forum and other forums are very worried about how the rise of robots, genuinely not made up, the rise of robots is going to destroy consciousness. And a lot of our gifts, don't use it, lose it, right? Our sensory ability, and we have virtual reality ability right now, which is what makes us hear music in different ways. It's just sound waves. We have all of those gifts, but the noise levels are increasing rapidly. And as much as we love digital and we're all proponents of it, a lot of what you're saying is definitely worth digging into later on. We won't take up the time now. There are a couple of more questions and we'll close off. Will Alliance diversify their fleet in the next couple of years? Question from Facebook.
Okay, so Alliance Air at this point is flying ATR 72, and we are looking at getting an ATR 42 as well for some of our shorter runways to cater, because the performance limitations did not permit an ATR 72. We're also looking for the first time to acquire Indian made in India aircraft, the Dornier. The Dornier we have flown many years before, but they were made outside India. So following the government of India passion for Atmanirbhar India, which is self-reliant India, we are one of the first airlines that has signed an MOU with HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, to acquire 2 Dornier aircraft, which is made in India, and to operate it in Arunachal Pradesh, which is in the northeast, which is a remote ALG, we call them advanced landing grounds, to operate those aircraft there. And as time moves on, yes, of course, we may look at other fleet, but at this point, this is the plan. We are going to diversify a little bit, but we have to see the COVID is still not out. I mean, it's still coming and going, and, we have to still look at our financials and make sure that we survive. That's equally important.
Right. Brilliant.
So,
brilliant. That's a great question.
One last burning question from, and we have an avid fan named Chandras from Facebook. And he's asking, strategically, how do you differentiate between Air India Express and Alliance Air when they're under the same umbrella? Will the future of AI affect AA? That's the question.
Okay, so as far as Air India Express goes, it is a subsidiary of Air India Limited, just like Alliance Air. Both are subsidiaries. Air India Express is running on a low-cost model, but it is a beautifully run airline. It is going to international destinations, but it is on a low-cost model. Alliance Air has a different concept. We follow the Udan scheme, Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. That means every person from the remote corner of the country, even those who never could travel by an airplane, you're trying to connect the 2-tier, 3-tier cities through what we call RCS scheme, Regional Connectivity Scheme. So the concept or the spirit behind it is slightly different, but both are under the umbrella of Air India. But yes, the second part of the question, that once Air India, if it gets disinvested, which is what we are hearing today, if it does happen, then Alliance Air is going to continue to be the only government airline. So it would be the flag bearer of the government of India as of now, and Air India as well as Air India Express will be disinvested as per the government plans as of now.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Interesting.
Got it.
Very good.
Okay.
And do we have another one? Apart from people saying amazing talk, what a dynamic leader, which you know anyway. There's one more thing. Oh, very quickly. The previous question was diversify. This one is about diversity. So we don't know much about your team, but of course you're a big proponent of women and women leadership. Tell us a little bit more about, are you really walking the talk? Does your leadership structure actually have cognitive and gender diversity? Because that's a big topic for all leaders around the world.
Yes, of course we do. In fact, in our own office, we have quite a mix of, diverse backgrounds. Gender diversity, of course, already exists. There's equality at work in every way. And we are also encouraging a lot of the underprivileged as well as the women and others to come up. We are actually giving them opportunities which they probably did not have earlier. So we're quite focused, and these are also coming, to be very frank, from certain government principles also, which we are trying to incorporate and ensure that we strengthen them.
Right.
So it is 100% there. And even when I was in Air India earlier, the goals and missions of corporate social responsibility in various dimensions are fully implemented. I'm quite proud about that. Both Air India Express, Alliance Air, in these areas, I think we are fully committed. There's no doubt.
Fantastic. Great.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Rick, over to you. We've gone through the hour like this.
Yes. Harpreet, I think we must have you back at some point soon here. So thank you so much for your energy, your wisdom, your passion, your perspective. There's so many great takeaways. I know I'll be listening to this show again. I encourage all of our audience members to pick their best bits and really take these as reminders for themselves as leaders out there in the situations that they're facing today. Where can people find out more about you and your good work? Where should they go?
I haven't thought about that actually.
Like maybe your LinkedIn profile, or is there anything specific that would be a good place to track some of your...
Okay, but LinkedIn profile, I'm not too much of a social media, but I know that my office has been putting a lot of things. I know that on our activities, but maybe LinkedIn is a good start. Facebook is another one. It has at least some of the, and the third is that they could join, if people who are more spiritually oriented, they can join my Universal Prayers group.
Beautiful.
And where should they go to find that information?
So I can send the link maybe to y'all, and you can send it forward.
We have a speakers page on our website for straighttalk.live, and we can just include any links you'd like on your speakers page if you like.
Yeah, sure. That would be good. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Because I think that's what the world needs a little more these days. So I would encourage that. Yeah.
Well, I've definitely been inspired today, Af. I know you have as well.
Oh, absolutely. Wonderful.
In our audience. So
me too. I've enjoyed talking to all of you, and I can see the passion with which you all are working. And, they say there's something like third eye energy. And I know you're both very, very beautiful souls and lovely people. And I'm sure you're going to do very well. So all the best. God bless all of you all.
Thank you. I'm feeling the jadoo.
Yes, the magic. The magic of the Almighty.
I appreciate it very much.
You want to get back to India, don't you, Rick?
You honestly, I've had like 3 or 4 thoughts on this call that I need to go back to India. I lived there for 1 year at one point, and you're making me want to go back. So
please do.
I think
come and stay with us.
We should do a trip out there and do some interviews, and just that might be something we think about.
Totally.
Lovely.
There's a calling.
Straight talk on the road. So thank you again. Really quickly, our show next week for our audience here, we're gonna have Rush Shah, who's the founder of London Tech Advocates and Global Tech Advocates. There's also, I know AF is leading India Tech Advocates. It's all about how to build communities in this digital era, and communities really be the thriving ecosystem that we all need to continue to upskill and uptrain, and to stay on the leading edge of today's challenges and to stay ahead of that. So we're gonna have a fantastic conversation. How do you actually create those communities, even in a working from home situation where we're all remote? Right. So that's gonna be next week. Again, thank you so much. Subratri, Mita Sopna, and till next time.
All the best.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you.
God bless. Thank you.
Okay. Have a great day.
Cheers, Rick.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.